Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice. Lead from within. Over to you, Kamal. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you very much, Nomsa. And I'd like to welcome Dr. Elena. It's the first time that I meet her, so that will be very interesting to have a chat with you. And I welcome everybody watching and whoever's going to be watching in the future. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. What is this life and what does it mean? Some of us say that we have a raison d'être in French. The Japanese call it ikigai. Others call it purpose. On average, 90% of people live their lives not questioning their existence, not diving with growth into it, living with a feeling of being lost sometimes, not knowing where to go next, and a feeling of having no sense of purpose can envelop them. Do you perhaps feel that you're like a hamster stuck in that hamster wheel, always running and grinding with no sense of direction, with a lack of fulfillment and belonging in your life? Well, my name is kamalamer, and I'm a certified NLP trainer, master practitioner, hypnotherapist, and a life purpose specialist. And with a combination of ancient Egyptian wisdom, neurolinguistic programming, I help you create a foundation of a life of harmony, balance, and purpose. And I would love for you, Dr. Elena, to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I am Dr. Dralenazachery Ross. I am in the United States. I currently serve as an educator. I'm a superintendent of schools, yet I have spent my entire career on personal development. I am the CEO of AZR Leads. And in AZR Leads, I coach people so that they can become their best selves in order for them to be able to be leaders of their household, leaders of their businesses, leaders of their companies. So I'm just so excited to join in this conversation with each of you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elena. So our topic today is the importance of identity development. So would you like to explain the topic, Dr. Elena, in your own understanding to our audience?
Absolutely. And it works so well with what you both have already talked about, because without knowing our identities, there's no way to live into our purpose or to live our best lives. And so I talk so much about the importance of identity development because there's so many folks that look at their just behavior, changing behavior. But if we don't know who we are, like who we really are, without the mask on, without this whole wondering about imposter syndrome, trying to be someone that others want us to be. Do we know what our own values and beliefs are? So then it can inform our capabilities and then all those other things. And so I focus on the importance of this development of ourselves, our own identity, so that you can work in that, live in the purpose, work in the purpose, and be able to accomplish all of your goals and dreams.
It's a nice way of putting it. It's, of course, I have a different perspective from an NLP side of view, right? I still agree with what you were saying. And I'd just like to add that the identity usually is added by society. What we consider being our identity are the labels that we give ourselves and that people give us sometimes. Now, the issue is that with that is, are you truly that? Is that who you are? An example of this is people, when you ask them, for instance, if I say, what do you do, Alina? What is your answer?
Well, see, and that's why I know about identity, because I wear multiple hats and realize that ultimately it's about personal development, but I do wear different titles in different spaces.
You see, and that's it. That's exactly what I want to point out, is that people believe that what they do is their identity. Now, what they do is what they're capable of. It's their skills, like you were talking about, right? It's their behaviors. Now, all of these sum up to creating some sort of identity. Our identity isn't our name. It's not our nationality. It's not our color. It is not where we come from. It's not where we're born, and it's not where we were raised or how we were raised. To me, identity is what we can do, where we can do it, how we want to do it, and if we believe we can do it or not. And the exact opposite of that, of what we cannot, do not know, and what we would rather be, for instance. So it's a combination of lots of, like you put it, hats as well, right? Because the hats that we wear aren't necessarily who we are.
Absolutely. You know, I just was talking to a group of people, and I talked about the fact that titles are temporary. We have lots of titles, and as we develop throughout our lives, those titles change. And guess what? Even roles change. I can be today. I'm an only child, but if I got, you get married and you get several more siblings, you can be today. I can be a daughter, but then if my parent passes away, now I don't serve in that role. So even roles. So that's why that whole personal development, this is who we are just for a lifetime. And so if we're not developing our own selves, and as you just talked about it, what about our values, right? Making sure that our values and beliefs are absolutely strong, and that we work to the core of those values and beliefs, and knowing that we can continue to develop skills, but it's based off of our strong values and belief system. Because if we start aligning ourselves to things that don't go with our identity, then we see ourselves disappointed, frustrated, and failure often occurs.
I agree with you guys. Sometimes people believe that their titles is their identity, but the title is the title. It can change anytime as time comes, but we have to, if you really, really want to know who you are, you have to actually go deep, and basically you have to understand your image. Your image creates your identity. Your beliefs create your identity, not the society, not what you've been labeled to be. And the things that we believe will be the sense of our identity. And like myself, if somebody was to ask me to ask myself, who is Nomsa? That would be a deep, deep question that I'm gonna have to not to answer. Like when I go into work, somebody say, what do you do? Then I say, I'm a love harmonist. But that's not my identity. That's not my beliefs. So if someone was to ask me, if I was to ask myself, who is Nomsa? Basically, who is Nomsa as my identity? I am love, because that defines who I am as a person. I am love. That means that is my character. That is my identity. That is my beliefs. And but then the title that I have as a CEO, it doesn't define, that's not my identity. That is something that tells people this is what I do. So if I was to define myself, or if I was to tell people who I am, it goes deep. My beliefs create who I am. It creates my identity. And being around people and doing the things that I love, that is me. And serving people, that is me. I love serving people, but I have to create that in one. Who is Nomsa? Nomsa, she is, Kamal, I know you're going to disagree with me. I see you itching your eyes. Go on, take the stage. Go on, take the stage.
I don't have to disagree with you. It's interesting when we're talking about these hats, right? And I'll get it back because that's what you were trying to explain now. In NLP, we say that there is the environment where you can have problems. There are your capabilities, there are your behaviors, there are your beliefs, and at the end you also have your identities. Others believe that there's another stage above that, which is your spiritual self. Now, our problems, our blockages, our states where we don't know how to solve, they can arise in any of these stages. However, when they become an identity issue, it becomes much harder to change them. One of those examples, for instance, is I've had clients that come in and they say, I want to quit smoking. And I ask them, why? And they say, well, I am a smoker. My parents are smokers. We're a family of smokers. And you see now what they have done in their mind, that they have identified with smoking being a part of them. We have different parts in us, right? We have our child, we have our growth mind, we have the one that wants to protect us, we have the one that is rebellious, we have different parts. But when you add to yourself that identity of a smoker or an alcoholic, or this is one thing, for instance, that I disagree with Alcoholics Anonymous, is that they have to say, I'm an alcoholic, right? But you're no longer, that's your behavior. You drink. It doesn't mean that you are an alcoholic. You just have a behavior that is unresourceful for you. Or sometimes it can actually be resourceful for you. In NLP, we say any behavior has a positive intention behind it. When we're talking about sane people, obviously. Our identity has the same thing. If we identify ourselves with something that we are not, it becomes deeply ingrained in us and it impedes our growth, our personal development. So how do we get rid of that? That's very important.
Come on, my goodness, your framework aligns so much, and mine is yours is NLP, and I'm a previous school and clinical psychologist and studies DILT all of the time. And that whole framework of the identity of values and beliefs driving capabilities, driving behavior, driving then the environment, and then the big environment that we're part of. And so then if you affirm daily that I am an alcoholic, for the example you gave, then it goes down, it does become a part of the identity in terms of beliefs, right? I now believe that I am an alcoholic, so I perpetuate the thing that I don't want to do. Then it leads to the behaviors, right? So then we start saying, then my capabilities, well, I do what alcoholics do. Then my behavior, it drives again that same belief. And so that is why I strongly have conversations when I'm talking to clients about those words that we use, about those thoughts. What are our beliefs? And to be able to not affirm like just saying I am somebody, but truly do those self-affirmations and reflection. And Nomsa talked about that reflection on what we believe we are. And so often we don't take the time. And I think the pandemic gave people a great opportunity, and some people missed it, to be able to do that self-reflection, to look at who they are and in their jobs and their titles and other things, and question, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? As you talked about your purpose, people had to look back and say, does this align to who I am and who I want to be?
Much. Thank you so much, Elena. Actually, I did a module with clinical psychology where we were dealing with the beliefs and identity. And when I was doing it, I was like, oh my goodness, I always label myself like, like when you're filling an application form, you say, oh, I'm African. But then when I did my DNA test, and I was like, I see my family, my heritage is all over everywhere. So I was like, I always label myself as an African, but actually my family, they're all over, even Europe. My heritage is everywhere. So how do we actually get to label ourselves like that? Because that is a limiting beliefs. We limit ourselves, and like sometimes like there's this thing, Black Lives Matter. So, and that can be a limiting beliefs without people realizing it. It can be a limiting beliefs. The reason why I'm saying a limiting beliefs is someone who is not into personal development, when they do meet people, they can label themselves as I'm Black, and people are always racist towards Black people. But guess what? Black people, there are some Black people who are racist towards white people. But when you look at the Bible say, come as you are. That doesn't mean you have to label people, whether you're white, whether you're Black. So basically, when we start calling people Black Lives Matter, so white, what about Indian lives? Indian, I don't agree with this, basically that Black Lives Matter. For me, a racism person should be called racist, because not to say Black Lives Matter. If somebody, a white person, has been racism towards a Black person, we have to focus on that. Because when we say now Black Lives Matter, it means focus on Nomsa, I matter to me than anybody else, and that becomes a sin in the Bible. So which is an identity that has been created. That identity can bring positive results to some people who are already into personal development, because they can define what it means. But then there is people who are not into personal development, that can bring limitation to them, because they don't know how to define it, how to use it to their own advantage. So that's why sometimes creating your own identity, not following the world or following the society, how we have been labeled. Like myself, I have my business. When I meet somebody in my business, I've created the identity of my business. I have a one rule in my business. If you are racist, you cannot register within my agency, whether you are racist towards the staff, you are racist towards me. So you can, or if you request to work with somebody else, you cannot register. Even if you have paid your money, it says on the form that you can't get a refund because of your behavior. So basically, I have created this, that the identity of my identity matters to me. You can't come to me and define me because you did not create me. Yes, I am Black, but does it mean that there are things that with my identity I cannot do? No, there's no such thing like that. It means there are no limits when it comes to somebody, when you create your own identity. But some people, they don't know that. So that's why I basically don't agree with the Black Lives Matter. Over to you, Kamal.
It's, you see that you've fallen still into the pattern of labels. Labels are very different than identities. And we had that discussion, we had a short discussion, and it's interesting, we were talking about identity. I had this discussion about a week or two ago with my mother. And I was telling her that our identity isn't our name. Names don't matter. My name is kamalamer, your name is dralenazachery Ross, Nomsa, clara, mncube. It doesn't matter. These are labels. This is not an identity. We take these names as this is who this person is. This is who they are. It's, let's say it's, this is Richard Branson, right? But that's just his name. That's not who he is. It's a label that we mortals use to understand or to differentiate between each other. Now, if you think of it from a different, let's say a spiritual, and I'm not saying religious, spiritual perspective, if we are all energy that exists, energy has no name. So that energy is not even labeled, right? Now, as humans, we fall into that pattern of labeling ourselves. A doctor, an engineer, a matchmaker, black, white, yellow, purple, pink, whatever you want to. What that creates, again, it's what Nomsa was saying. It does create some sort of limiting belief. Because with that label, there are beliefs, there is understanding, there are common rules that are attached to these labels that the society accepts or does not accept. So what if you were to live the best of your lives? Would you be able to live it based on the rules of others? Or would it be under your rules? Meaning that that label that society has given you either has the power or has no power over your identity, over yourself, the different parts of you, obviously. And that's what I think is a big issue with a lot of people, especially when I'm talking about 90% of people that just are here to live as it is, right? They don't go into self-development, they don't think about growth. Is that that's what they call, I've been giving these cards and that's what I work with. That's what I deal with. I've been dealt these cards. Well, you still have a choice. You have a choice to throw the cards and start from you. You have a choice to get out of that and do something that you've never done. But what holds you back is your fear. What holds you back into that fear are your beliefs, are what you think people will say or might think or say about you. So how do you want to have a different identity if you still think about what people think and consider their thoughts and opinions?
Oh my goodness. Again, I'm connecting so much to what you're talking about. When Nomsa and I talked just a few days ago, we talked about some of those same things about how we operate so much on what we think others' beliefs are about us, as well as these labels. And I loved it, Nomsa. You talked about the limiting labels that we attach ourselves with, and that's what you were saying, Kamal. And I wonder why. One of the things that I speak about often when I go and do public speaking is becoming the star of your life. And people kind of laugh at it. And, we talk about, we all can say, what is a star, right? Like we can name famous people all over the place. And we talk about what happens. Like, with a star, we think about that person has if you think about in a movie, they are the number one role. And we're not even the stars of our own lives. Oftentimes, our children dictate our lives, our jobs dictate our lives, our titles dictate our lives. And it's because of these limiting beliefs that we box ourselves in. We put ourselves in these squares and say, I can't do that because I'm a woman. You know what? I was the youngest child, so therefore I was the baby. I'm a man, so I have to do this. And so it goes to exactly why I believe that we have to continue to press people to look at themselves as the star of their lives, to look and develop themselves to be able to live and lead their own best lives. And that's where I focus on that identity. Because if we focus there, then we become limitless. We see potential, we see opportunity that we never thought we had the potential to do before.
I love that. You see, you summed it all up in that finding that potential within yourself, right? It's seeking what is out there. It's seeking something different. But again, that's the problem, right? With personal development, with growth, you actually have to have that will to do something, the courage to do something, even with that fear that you have, right? It's okay to be afraid of stuff. Just do it anyway, right? And
Yes.
it's that growth mentality, and that's why I said about 90, I think it's above 90%, right? 10% of the people, of the population of this planet, do not choose to grow beyond who they are. That's my son here, right? And he wants to grow out of where he is. He's always looking for something to do. Now, and this is what I'm talking about, right? We're all talking about this. It's that growth mentality. It's wanting to be something that is not labeled by society, that confined space that we're living in, or that people are living in. I don't live by the society's rules. I follow certain rules of manners, of respect, but beyond that, if I don't like who you are and I don't want to deal with you, I won't deal with you. If I want to have fun and run and play like a child in the street, I'll do that, as long as I'm not harming anybody. And so it comes back to what you were talking about, is that will to look deeper and grow out of that confinement.
I actually agree with you, Kamal and Dr. Elena. You know, Dr. Elena, you talk about what did I write? You can be a star in your own life, which is true, but that's why where it comes in, limiting beliefs, it comes in. Once I believe that I'm actually a Black woman, that takes away me becoming a star. But if I tell myself that I am God's creator, who is an amazing African woman, who is amazing, who can be who she wants to be, then I can use your idea to become a star of my own destiny. Because, you know, if we can actually sit down, I was watching, I don't know, there's a guy in Brazil, what's his name? He's in prison now. I think people all over the world, they went to him. He's a healer or something. What's his name? The celebrities, everyone, even Oprah went just to witness what he does. I was watching the guy that went to him, but then he said he went to him at the time he didn't know who he was. And then he said he started, after being from him, he started questioning what he's doing, going to seek somebody to help him. And then he said, when I actually started to sit down and I heard that this guy was in prison, I started sitting down and questioning my identity, my beliefs. Then I realized that actually, he said he realized at that moment that what he was seeking for somebody to give him, he had already got it. Because if he had believed it, he would have healed himself. He would have sought a higher energy than him, and he healed himself. So he was saying we are capable of anything if we actually are willing to actually put the time and the focus. And I was listening to one audio, and this guy was like, if you want to understand your identity, basically who you are, he was like, focus by run water on the tap. Listen to that water slowly, dropping down. And when you are having shower, instead of rushing and saying, I'm having a shower, just enjoy that shower. And that it comes with your identity. If you can actually stop everything you're doing and start focusing on who you are as a person, your beliefs, your values, listening to that inner voice telling you trying to communicate with you, you can create your own identity, not people telling you who you are. Then you can be who you want to be and do the unthinkable, because that you know that you are capable of anything. So that is for you. And Kamal, you talk about having the courage, having that courage to do things. And if you do have the courage, there are some things, like sometimes when I want something, I close my eyes and I say, I'm going to ask for it. Or if I meet someone, I'm like, this is what I want. I don't know if this person is going to offer to help me. I just close my eyes and trust my beliefs and trust God that He's above them all. He's going to guide me. He's going to guide this person to actually listen to my want and listen to my desires. And sometimes I get surprised by approaching people and with that belief that they're going to listen to me. I have to believe that they will listen to my cry. And sometimes you ask someone and that person will be like, oh yeah, sure. And I'm like, seriously? Like, yeah. What do you want me to do? I'll help you. How? You just tell me, and I'm there. It's just if you believe, because the society, there are limiting beliefs that have been planted, even from our parents, the society, everything. Like myself, I come from Africa. There are certain things that you can't say to people. If you are going through something, you have to keep it to yourself. There are some things that you can't say. I don't know. I always ask my family who created those rules, and they don't have a clue either. So I challenge my family. They don't have a clue what's going on. So I'm like, okay, so I'm right by basically teaching you guys to be you. If you're having a headache, just express it and say, I'm having a headache. It's not a shame. It's not like you're downgrading yourself. It's a reality. So that's how you get help. Over to you, Kamal.
I actually want to hear Elena a little bit, because I speak a lot, and I want to hear her opinion now first before I speak.
Well, you talked about it, Kamal. You talked about that energy, right? And we all are made of energy. And Nomsa, you talked about love. And so when you talked about going to someone and believing that they are going to respond, that's that energy. We are attracting, we're either attracting or polarizing, pushing away. And so that belief that you had was that attraction to that person, that connection that you had with that person. And so that energy that we put out, that energy when you went to the person caused them to attract to you. And so part of what we're thinking about is even in Kamal's example about the alcoholic, when you talked about childhood beliefs, we've got to eliminate some of these doubts about our skills, doubts about our abilities, doubts about how people will accept us and not accept us. When we remove those doubts and then also remove the fears. Kamal talked about that. And what did they say? Fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence, most of it is not even true. And so when we do to have that courage, when we take action, then we are connected to those things that we've been thinking about. We're connected to those things that align to our purpose. We're connected to those things that bring us that new identity that we're seeking and searching for when we actually take action on those thoughts and on those beliefs. And so that's why I love hearing Kamal talk about taking the next step. You having the courage. And I'm saying you talked about some examples of that. And that's what we've got to get people to do. Get beyond just the thinking. Those are wonderful things. That reflection is the first step, right? Is to have the belief. And then we've got to take action on it. Nothing happens just by us having good thoughts.
Absolutely. You see, and in any sense, this is why we have, there are so many books. There's a plethora of books on personal development, on how to set your mind, how to be the master of your mind, emotional intelligence, emotional mastery. But the difference is that, and you can read as many as you want to, the difference is that, will you take action? Are you capable of being accountable for what you need to do for yourself? And I'm saying need only because it's a need to want to do things. I've said it many times. I believe there are only basically two needs in your life. It's eating and drink, or maybe three: eating, drinking, and sleeping. Anything else is not a need. Anything else is a want. Now, when we change that, when we have that will, that want to change, that want to become somebody else, somebody better, that's when things start to move along. And you're talking about the actions that need to be taken. And that's part of the second part. What I want to talk about is that, how do we change that identity of ours that we've had for so long? And it's these small actions that you're talking about. It's that mentality to set yourself into a place where, no, that's not enough for me. I want to be better. I want to change something. It's accepting the fears that you have. And it's okay to be afraid of spiders. It's okay to be afraid of height. It's okay to be afraid of change. Change is a constant in life. It's a constant. We are the irregularity that doesn't want to abide by the change. So how can you refuse that when it's part of everything? Plants, animals, nature, everything changes. We as humans refusing to grow, to change, is proof that you are not ready to become who you want to be, who you are. Well, not meant to be, because you're meant to be who you are at that specific point in life. So whether you grow or not, that's who you're meant to be. And I was talking about that identity of a while back. I was doing a talk about how people get divorced or separated. And once they do that, a lot of them fall into that false pattern of identity of jumping straight away into a new relationship, because they have identified themselves for such a long time as being in a couple, being married, being with somebody, that they have no sense of self-identity, that identity that is completely alone, without the noise of everybody around, without that person or the people that take that space. And that pattern is faulty, because that exploration, you need it for yourself to grow if you actually do want to grow. Obviously, I'm not blaming anybody if they do. There's a need for love. There's a need to protect yourself and all of that. And it's fine. It's okay. Some people don't like that. Some people don't. Some people actually seek that first step, that first action that you were talking about, Alena. It's to go beyond and say, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a change in my life.
Oftentimes people struggle with just that first step, though, right? It's like and Dr. Martin Luther King said it, you have to take the first step even when you don't see the full staircase, right? And so sometimes we want to see the entire staircase, and we're not ready for that. We're not ready for the entire staircase. We're ready to take the first step. And so I loved when you talked about the fact that you are perfect right where you are, right? Whatever stage we're in, that's right where we're supposed to be. And it's just not where we need to end up being. It's not our full story. And so we think about animals, right? Animals are adaptive. We act like we are adapted, but we need to continue to be adaptive to our environment, to our world, to our minds and our thoughts and our whole beliefs. And sometimes we don't want to be adaptive. We want to either be adapted and quit and stop moving. And that's not okay for us. It's not okay for animals, and it's certainly not okay for us, who have the ability to change mindsets, to morph into something that as you talked about, Nomsa, when we start off as a child, there's some abuse, there's a lot that happens. And just because of those environments and situations, that's not who we necessarily will end up being.
Yeah, that is so true, Dr. Alena. Kamal, when Kamal talk about our fears, that we can actually conquer our fears, whatever we are going through in life.
No, sorry, I don't like conquer our fears. I don't like that, because you do things with having that fear that makes you stronger. It's not conquering. They're still there. I didn't say conquer your fears. Don't put words in my mouth.
For me personally, I have to conquer my fears. My fears are there, but I have to recognize and ask myself. I think I meditate too much. And I have to ask myself, why am I feeling this fear? It shouldn't be there. So I have to disconnect it. So I meditate a lot, in a point where I disconnect some things. Like if I'm feeling fear, it's like I'm like, no, I shouldn't fear this. Why am I fearing? So I get to a point where I have to, when I'm reading the Bible, I'm like, this was a man who created the earth, but he didn't fear anything. Although he knew that with his powers, people can kill him, but they did. But he didn't fear, he didn't stop becoming who he wanted to be. So why am I fearing? So even sometimes when people don't believe in me, I have to ask myself, this is my beliefs. This is what I'm doing, and I have to keep believing in me. So when you talk about go beyond, Alena, go beyond. And this is what I believe. This is my beliefs, that if you want to become who you want to be, you want to create your identity. Like you talk about Martin Luther, King Luther, is basically the man that I admire for who he is and for who he was. And for me, is an amazing man. He never believes that as a Black person, he knew that there was a problem in the Black community, and he stood for what he believes in. And I love people like that speak up and believes and basically stand up for people. If I was in America, actually, there would be a job for me to actually get into politician. And honestly, they're lucky because I'm in the UK. But if I was a black woman in America, there'll be a job for me to get paid, because people are suffering, people are scared, but at the end of the day, we all been created by the same person. We can go beyond and become who we want to be. And having said that, I have King Luther there. He's basically the man that I admire, but he's not my idol, because if I say he's my idol, that means I become like him. And that's where the youngsters make mistakes. They look at celebrities and they create their identity based on celebrities. They want to be thin. They look at celebrities who want to be thin, who want to be this, and they end up creating their identity, losing who they are. So I think that's where people should be. There's a difference between looking up to somebody and becoming them. So for me personally, I always say to my family, when you look at me, just look at Nomsa, because if you look at me when I was growing up, people will think that I'm different, but I wasn't different within me inside. Because Alena, you talk about going back to our childhood, and when I go back, visualizing going back to my childhood, I see me there, but my family didn't see me in there, but my fathers did. They did see me in there, that the Nomsa could be who she wanted to be. So that's what people don't understand, that if you enter Kamal, you spoke about marriages that people jump into from a relationship to another. That is another identity that people don't realize. They define themselves as, I can't live on my own. But you know, you can actually. You can live on your own. That's why I said before, when we were talking about relationships, if a man comes to me and say, Nomsa, I cannot imagine my life without you, I will say, you are bonkers, you are nuts. I'm out. Because I can imagine your life without me. If it was before I got into personal development, I believe it. But now that I'm into personal development, if a man comes to me and say, I cannot imagine my life without you, I'll be like, I don't think so. I will say, I don't think so. If he tells me that you make me, when I'm with you, you make me be me, I feel happy, describe his feelings, I can understand it. I'll say, give it to me, baby. That is love. But if you start telling me you cannot live without me, I'll be like, I don't believe this is not good. That's not a proper identity. Because every woman can live without a man, and men can live without a woman. It's just we are there for each other, energy, bringing amazing energy to each other, encouraging each other, mentoring each other. I was listening to this guy. I'm going to get his name. He says, when you go to screen a man or a woman, you're looking for love. What we intend to do is, he likes the same thing that I like. Wow, that's amazing. I like her. She's beautiful. She's got blonde hair. Like I have blonde hair. We've got similarities. We love traveling. We love this. But he said what we forget is, although we like different things, we like similar things, we are still two different people. So if we were to connect to that and to realize that we are two different people, there will be no divorce, because mostly women enter a relationship hoping to change a man, and men enter a relationship hoping to change a woman to become who they are. But that's not the case. We are two different people. So over to you, Dr. Elena or Kamal.
Now, I was going to just comment on your fear, right? Just so you know, fear is meant to be there. Fear is part of us. It's there to protect us. Now, when fear is in our life, that's based on like some of the work that my mentor has taught me. Fear comes from three places: the fear of outcome, the fear of the process, and the fear of loss. So having fear within you because of something, it's totally normal. Conquering it or removing it, that doesn't make sense, because it is there to protect you from something. It is there to save you from something. It is there for a reason. And we are like genetically built that way to have that response, right? Fright, freeze, flight. I always mess it up. So I don't believe in conquering your fear and getting rid of it. I believe in accepting your fear and doing whatever you need to do or want to do in spite of that fear existing in your life, which makes you more courageous. Now, when you're talking about the identities as well, I wanted to add that the identity of the self is all of these parts that we are, all of these parts that we believe we are, that we've spoken about. It's everything. It's those similarities, it's those differences, it's how we process our beliefs, how we process our behaviors, obviously, and capabilities, what we cannot do, and what we want in our life, right? Identity is also part of purpose. You cannot uncover purpose, right? It's not find purpose. You don't go looking for it around. It's there, you just need to uncover it. You cannot uncover purpose without understanding who you are, what roles you play, why do you want to play them? Are they important in your life or not? Do you want to get rid of them or not? Are these talents and skills part of who you are as a passionate person, or are they not? And I like to, I was keeping it for the end, but I'll add it here because Einstein said it very nicely. Of course, this was such a long quote that I couldn't remember it by heart. I usually remember my quotes, but this one, he said, "We experience ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings as something separate from the rest. A kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us." Now, why do I think this is important? Is because he has defined identity in that short sentence. Our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, everything that pertains to us, not to society and not to the world. These are the stepping stones to creating the personality, the character, and the future that you want to have for yourself. What do you say?
Yeah, that you talked about that. The quote talked about the prison, right? Because we make ourselves prisons. We're not truly free and free indeed because of the prison that the battle. Joyce Meyer said the battlefield is in the mind. It is not somewhere else. It starts with the mindset. And so then we wonder about that, because even when Nomsa, you talked about fear, and you connected it with God. And I was thinking of that Bible verse about God that doesn't give you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of self-control. And so we think about that power, right? And that power is mental energy. It's the mental power to live in and on purpose, right? And so and what is it that we're called to do? Like, what is it that when I'm born, when each one of you are born, when our listeners were born, that you and only you were meant to do? Like, you know, and that living in purpose is on purpose is beyond ourselves too. Like what we give to this life, what we contribute to others. And that's where, when I was thinking about that power of love and of self-control, because if we use our power, if we use our love for others, our love for self, and our love for that creator above all of us, then we will have that self-control to take those steps, to move beyond, even in spite of being afraid and having some fear, even in spite of our own challenges and mindsets, because we are living in and on purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Alena. I'm gonna repeat about the fear. You know, Kamal, when I spoke about fear, you know, there's a program. It's called The Chosen. So I watched this program. It's the story about Jesus. So, like what Alena was saying, is talking about the scripture and this scripture of fear. So it comes these people to arrest him, basically. On that episode, he comes in, basically it's in the Bible. They come and arrest him. So when he gets arrested, everyone is like, oh, they're getting angry. He goes, no, just step back, put your weapons down and don't get angry. I'll be back. Continue, because they are planning for whatever they are planning. So he says, continue with the plan. But then he's calm. He goes along with the people. Is not basically fighting. Then he goes and sit down. He speak about people. He still believes. He still talks about his beliefs. They are questioning him. He still talks about his beliefs. And the guy goes, I actually like you. And then he goes, you stay my way, out of my way, I stay out of your way. And the other guy that was sent to arrest him, because is that all? He goes, yeah. He understands where we stand against with each other. He understands what I want. I understand his want. As long as he stays away my way, I'm staying away from him. So he goes back. And they've continued with the plans, but when they are continuing with plans, his disciples are fighting. So he goes, why are you fighting? I told you I will be back. So that means, so when I was watching this, it made me realize, when I went back to the scripture, it made me realize that actually, no matter what is going on in your life, the fear will always be there, but you can actually conquer it by saying, okay, I understand you are here with me, but I'm going to look beyond and continue with my plans, whatever I'm doing. That's what I do basically when I say I'm switching off. I know that I have to continue with my plans, even sometimes when I know that the mountain is big. I have to say to myself that he's above me. So there's a higher power out there, which is God, that is above me. I'm going to conquer it. And I'm going to tell you a secret about Ngosi Talk Show. I hear the speakers going, yip, 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 yip. And the other day, you know, because every time I enter Hope Springs, the tenant introduction agency, I get feedback about social medias and stuff from the people who are actually in the media, TV. They give me feedback. And this guy said to me, Nomsa, whatever you do with the talk show and Instagram, I think is amazing. And he said, the reason why we give you this title is because when you go on someone's social media, everything that is being done professional, go and beyond. We can tell it doesn't look nice anymore. It doesn't look, it looks obvious. But when we go to Ngosi Talk Show and Hope Springs, the tenant introduction agency, it looks like you are doing it yourself. And he was like, am I right? I said, yes, you are right. And they said, I can connect with it. I can connect with the speakers. I can connect. I'm telling you on my other side, I can connect. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that. So that is the thing that Kamal, you guys didn't know, that some people, They actually admire you guys more than you guys admire yourself. They actually really, really admire you all.
Well, it's lovely to hear that, Nomsa, and this is why we do that. I mean, at least me, this is why I do it, not to be admired, but to be able to offer as much help as possible. Of course, I do like the admiration as well sometimes. But, I admire myself enough in front of the mirror. What I'm saying is that we do that because we love people. We want people to become better. We want to help people reach their capabilities and ideas and beliefs that they never thought were possible, right? And again, part of the identity and the beliefs, like Ford said, whether you believe you can or cannot, you're absolutely right. And that is the essence of identity, in a sense. If you identify yourself as crazy, as an alcoholic, as a drug addict, as a single mom, a single dad, whatever you want to identify yourself as, if this is what makes you believe that you have certain conditioning by society, this is what makes you believe that you have to hold on to these things, this is not your identity. This is the social standards. These are the conditioning that you've had since you were a child. Choose what you want in your life. Choose how you want it in your life. And find a way to live your life by your rules without harming anybody. That is when you start figuring out who you are and what your identity truly is. But look deep into yourself. Look into your past as what have you done? What behaviors have been resourceful? What behaviors do you want to keep? Which ones do you want to change? Look into your skills. What have you done that has served you? What have you done that hasn't served you? What do you want to do? What can you do? What can you learn? And look into your passion. All of your passions, whether it was something tiny that you were passionate about, whether it was a person that helped you, that motivated you, whether it's a family member that you're very passionate about, of them staying in your life. All of these are small steps into figuring out your identity. And that is the way forward, in my opinion, to having a really defined identity that is very different, that is separate from your conditioning and the labels that have been given to you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Dr. Aleni, do you have any words of encouragement before we leave?
Absolutely. You know, Napoleon Hill talks about what success is, the progressive realization of a worthy idea. And that's what we've been talking about, is this idea of what our identity is. And so, you know, really taking that time to reflect, looking at what is our purpose, the thing that we were called to do, and having the faith that we can do it. Because we talked about the doubts, but it's about having the faith that we can do and be who we want to be. It says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so what is it that we think about ourselves? And then finally, that taking action. And it's not taking looking at the whole thing, but taking that first step. And so I just want to encourage our listeners today to take the first step. We all are coaches. There's so many coaches, right? You talked about that's what people are listening for, and they enjoy your show because of the authentic voice of the people you have here. And so there are people everywhere that people can connect to. And so just finding that person that you can work with, everybody can benefit by coaching to help with that personal development.
Kamal, thank you so much, Dr. Alena. Kamal, any words of encouragement, or you're finished?
I just said them.
Okay. So for me, basically, if you didn't make me, you cannot define me. That is my final say. If I didn't make you, I cannot define you because there's more you can do than I can ever know. So only you know what you're capable of within you. So you can work on yourself and unleash that power within, like Tony Robbins says, and to become who you want to become. And some people want people to affirm, but it's never going to happen if you are that person that wants people to affirm your identity. You're going to be waiting for a long time. So thank you so much. And Ghosty Talk Show, we are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. If you want to get in touch with any of our speakers, you can go to our page and get in touch with them. And please follow us on our social medias and YouTube. God bless you. Live with grace, everyone.